Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. What is up, everybody? Today is Friday, September the 4th. Holy fuck, can you believe it is fucking September? I can't. I keep thinking about this shit. I'm just surprised. I'm surprised at how fast this fucking year's gone by. I'm surprised at how crazy this year's been. It is fucking wild. Anyway, it's Friday. No different day for me than any other day, except for, actually nothing. I thought I was going to say something, but anyway, I've been doing a lot of thinking as of late, just about society, like I always do, time frame and all this other shit. And as weird as it sounds, I've just been thinking about how over the years and millennia that human beings have been alive, how things have shifted and altered and changed from different laws and rules and customs in the way that we as human beings accept certain aspects of life. And I was just kind of tracing through that the past couple days and just kind of chewing on all that stuff. One of the big things is like death and murder. That's one of the big things I've been thinking about. I've been watching Spartacus, the TV series about the gladiator Spartacus. Fucking the first season's pretty dope. And it's been making my mind fucking go all over the place on certain things, but I was just thinking about all sorts of different stuff before that. And that's some of the stuff we're going to get into today. That's why I had the topic. Our topic today about how traditional conservatism is not the answer. And as a matter of fact, it is the reason that we have gotten here today. Get into that in just a little bit. Terrence Popp. I've heard that name before. Contact Terrence Popp. He's a veteran. He will have you on. Cool. By the way, what's up, everybody? Andrew Rolls, Logan, MP, how we doing? If you're in the chat, please do, like Gladium Spiritus just did. He said, what's up, how you doing? Obviously, make sure you hit that like button as well. I'm going to shill a little bit in the beginning as well, since I got your attention. Please, 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 if you don't mind, either purchase one of my books. Go to paypal.me/Corey Capella to donate. That would be fucking awesome. Share this and share any of my others, any other podcasts that you enjoyed. And of course, hit the like and sub if you have not already. Anyway, like I said, I was just doing some. He's in the circle jerk. All right. I'll check it out. Never heard of him. I'll check it out, though. Edward Reyes, how we doing? Today was a great day. Obviously, I got some jiu-jitsu on. And actually, it was kind of weird. A different class. We did a little bit of self-defense today, which was cool. I'll have a call in today, too. So please stand by for that. Let me get us on track first. Good question. Corey, if you left the USA, where would you likely go? It's a hard question to answer. Because right now, if it's right now we're talking, right now, the only place that's really willing to take people in at this moment in time is Mexico. Where would I likely go? I don't know. I haven't found any place outside the United States yet that I'm like dead set on saying, man, I'd fucking go and move and live here, because it has to match my temperament. And that's something I'm going to talk about today also, as to what's going on there. Possibly, I know this sounds crazy, possibly Thailand. And that's mainly because there's a lot of good expats over there that still train martial arts. Good Muay Thai, good Jiu-Jitsu, good MMA coming out of there. I don't know if I'd be able to tolerate the humidity. I mean, of course I could, but we're asking like preferably where I'd like to go. The other place that I heard that has a temperament similar to San Diego would be Barcelona, Spain. I'd like to check that out, but I don't know what the training would be like there. Mexico wouldn't be too bad. There's a whole bunch of places that you could go to. Who knows? I enjoyed Costa Rica. I didn't go to San Jose though, so I don't know what San Jose is like, but I feel like, again, it'd be nice to live there, but of course, everyone talks Romania, Poland. Poland might be nice. I've never been to Poland. Well, I've never been to Romania. Actually, did I stop in Romania on the way back? I don't remember. Anyway, so answering this question here for those of you guys that are wondering what the fuck I'm talking about. So yeah, did some jiu-jitsu, did some self-defense training today, which was pretty unique. I enjoyed that immensely. Yesterday, I took the day off. I've been training pretty hard. I've been training about 6 days a week and then throwing in about 3 or 4 days of lifting as well. And yesterday, the old body was just like, hey, bro, time out. Don't go in. Don't train. Don't do anything. Just sit around on your ass. So yesterday was literally sitting around on my ass doing nothing. I had to force myself to do nothing, which is good. Believe it or not, one thing that I'm learning right now is the more rest I get, the better. I used to be like really adverse to resting. And the more sleep I get, the more rest I get, and the more I do some type of recovery, the better things work out for me in the long run. I think I've been overtraining a bit lately. I'm not going to lie. But I'm also on a timeline. For those of you guys that aren't aware, I'm pretty close to getting my brown belt. So I'm like really trying to get that done pretty quickly. I'm kind of worried too. I want to get my brown belt before and if this does happen where we have another lockdown. So I'm kind of like racing against time, literally. So that's why I'm training much more than I normally would. Preferably, I think I'd like to do, I actually really do like training jiu-jitsu 5 days a week, and I'm trying to minimalize my sparring sessions and just focus more on, on technique. But the shitty part is when you show up, everyone's like, hey, let's roll. And you're just like, fuck. You kind of feel like a bitch not rolling. So it's all good. I've really been working on my temper. It's what I try to call my temperature, if that makes any sense. Actually, no, sorry. I've been calling it my volume. Not volume in the sense either of like how much, but volume in the sense right now of how high, so volume in the sense of how hard. And that's even with my lifting. So I would say that normally and before, I would probably train at about 70 to 80% as far as what my volume would be at. Now I'm training at like 40 to 50 as far as how hard, even with my lifting. So if someone's trying to break in your house, you'll break their neck. I preferably would not want them to get close to me if someone's breaking into my house. So there's some contraptions out there I've heard of that can allow you to protect yourself from a distance. I don't own any of them, but I've heard of them. Anyway, this kind of piggybacking on what I want to talk about today. But first, let me get the ball rolling because I have a few people that said, well, actually only one person. Try not to fluff my fucking statistics up here, who said he wants to call in. So I do have the link for you guys to call in to, or using StreamYard. If you want to hop on, give me about 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Actually, you know what? I'll put the link in there right now. You guys can sit in the queue if you want to. I love how this doesn't have a fucking paste. There's that. All right. So let's get on track now that we've shot the shit for a little bit. First off, we got a couple people here watching live. I appreciate that. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the share icon as well and share it with some friends. Let them know, hey, this dude's live. You should listen to this, bro. And call in. If anyone has any gripe, moan, or complaint that they want to say, like last time wasn't very productive, though, if I do say so myself. But you guys can come at me with anything. You can come at me with any questions. But let's try to stay on track where I'm talking about traditional conservatism, mainly the Christian style of conservatism, I believe, and I will give my argument here as well, I believe is what caused the West to fall. There's many reasons why I can explain this. Now, first and foremost, I do want to say this. Christianity itself is the blue pill. It is the blue pill. Why is that? And this is something, I would even say religion in general is blue pill. I would say religion in general is blue pill. I've talked about this in some other videos before, but I believe in self-ownership. I don't believe at all in lowering my power. I don't believe at all in worshiping any type of identity, God, or anything like that. I think that already puts me at a disadvantage, mainly because I believe that I am God. And there's a reason why I have a God amongst men as my name and all this other stuff. And I believe that God and I are on, if there is a God, I look at it as like my higher self. I believe that there is a creator, obviously the originating consciousness, but I don't think that it's something that has chosen to be worshipped. Instead, I think this is an object of consciousness that is just looking to grow more and more consciousness and experience more and more things. It's like a computer in a way. And I also think it's more of like a storyteller. So it creates all sorts of different data, right, through different various means of consciousness. And then it just furthers and moves the story along. So there's that. I also believe that we're ever expanding and ever evolving. So I kind of look at my energy, and then there's a higher God style of my energy. I'm in communication with that entity. Let's call it an entity. And that's what leads me, right? I connect to that. That's what helps lead me. It is me, though. It's not some other deity. It's like it is me, right? I think worshiping anything, like I said, is a sign, and it's not to say it's slavery. Worshiping something outside of yourself is slavery, and it creates having that as the onus of your belief system. That creates a slippery slope that leaves you open now to give yourself to other things, for that to come into your life and be able to control you. And when you allow something to control you, you're already submitting that you can't control yourself. You can't control your life, that you don't have the belief system that you can steer your life in the direction that it needs to go, get yourself out of bad places, create the happiness that you're looking for, and also maintain and create the freedom that you're looking for. Now, how is Christianity blue pill in general? Well, first and foremost, and how is religion blue pill in general? The biggest thing that we have to take into consideration and understand is that in each one of these religions, any of these Abrahamic religions, they have a power structure, obviously, that's based off of a hierarchy. Now, of course, anytime you have a power structure, there's going to be a hierarchy. But it all depends on what their motivation is. Is it to free you, or is it to control you? Or is it to use you in order for them to continue to grow and exact their power on other things? So, for instance, one of the biggest misnomers and one of the biggest downfalls with the TradCon thinking and with Christianity, and this is even the same thing with Islam, is their biggest way to kill off the other religion in order to have maximum control and utter control is to convince you to marry young and have as many children as possible. Sweet. Andrew, I just saw your communication in the private chat. I just replied, sweet. I'll get you on here in a second. Let me state this premise first, and then we'll get going. Now, I have an issue with that because initially what it told men was their value was once they're out of the household, once they're of age, the best way to be a man is to get a wife and then start having children and then produce a lot of children. So I can understand back in the day when we didn't have a civilization like we did today. I can understand that, right? Exactly. Be fruitful and multiply a mediocre peasant class. That's exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. Grow. Be part of our church. Be part of our belief system, because that's the right belief system. You're on our team. Obviously, give us money. Keep us in control. Stay married. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, and the reason why I call it the blue pill is because this is the ultimate beta dream. The ultimate beta dream is having a religion that keeps female hypergamy. Richard Bird, you keep fucking typing ha. Do you have something that you want to say? Do you have an argument, or are you just going to say ha as a comment each time? Like, I don't know what you're laughing at. So be a man. Say what you're laughing at. I appreciate that. So religion teaches men this is your value. Oh, but we're going to feed into your sexual, what's it called? Like your best sexual selection kind of deal, right? Your best sexual premise. Like for 80% of men who are going to be beta, we have this system where we shame women in a way, not anymore, but we shame women into staying married to you and giving you sex, right? And giving you children, because that's what God wants. And as a man, I have her locked in. She can't go and cheat. I don't have to put any more of my time and energy into maintaining the relationship, really. What are you laughing at, though, specifically? Oh, never mind. Don't worry about it. Because I know you're the first person to comment today. You commented, ha. I didn't know what the hell you were ha-haing at. It's like, explain. And the fact of the matter is, and what we end up seeing, too, is these people end up getting into these relationships because they're sold a bill of goods where it's like, oh, it's going to be happiness. But it's just initial happiness. They finally get to have sex, but then they're locked in and no one has to really do any work. So then what ends up happening is the husband just goes to work continuously, brings in the resources. The wife takes care of the kids, moves the kids to the number one position spot for relationships. And then they just have a long, boring fucking marriage for forever until they die, right? Because they can't or could not get divorced back in the day and all this other stuff. And it's just like, where was the form of happiness in any of that stuff? There was no happiness. Now, the other thing, too, is this was kind of passed along as the initiation into manhood for men. As soon as possible, get married and have children. And during that time frame, what did that man have to learn about himself? What did he learn as far as his own self-ownership? What did he learn about the world as far as his likes and dislikes? No, he was told he doesn't need to learn any of these things. All he needs to do is get married and go get a job and provide for his family and go to church on Sundays. And that is the path to happiness. Now, the reason why I say it's the road to the blue pill is it's just like what we're seeing right now with modern day people going to college right after high school. They're going to college. They're given this streamlined path of go to college, then you're going to get a job, then you're going to buy all this shit, and then you'll get married in a little bit, and then you'll have kids, and then you'll keep working, you'll retire at 65, and everything's going to be fucking good. It's the American dream. It's beautiful. It's like, no, it's not. It's fucking hell. And we're seeing that. just a system that's evolved, right? So what's the difference? Now, and I had to sit here because the other day we had a gentleman call in and he accused me of trying to save the West. And he accused me of a few other things. But he says, it sounds like you're trying to save the West. Even though you say you're not trying to save the West, it sounds like you're trying to save the West. I'm not trying to save the West. As a matter of fact, a lot of people sit there and say the West was founded on, and I'm not going to say Judeo-Christian, that's a fucking cop-out, Christian values. It's not Judeo. They just started to say that to move right-wing into supporting fucking Israel. Anyway. Christian values. And I don't necessarily 100% agree with that. I think that the West was actually founded on the Enlightenment and the values that were founded during Enlightenment, which was self-ownership and direction, and that you can attain your own morals and understanding beauty, understanding truth. That's really what the Enlightenment was about, was truth and individual sovereignty and the ability for an individual to guide their own life. But that's not something that really catches on too well, because then you're going to have to systematize it, and then it ends up turning into a bunch of people that are dependent on someone else to tell them how to live their life, which then forms into a church and all this other stuff. But, and this is where the big issue is, and this is why I don't necessarily agree with saving the West, because as we see what has ended up happening is having generation and generation and generation of men that are going to church, they end up propping up women and pedestalizing women, and they also forego true initiation into manhood and the warrior culture that is necessary in order to establish and maintain boundaries. So I don't agree with that. And if that's what the West is founded on, then I also am on board with the decay of the West, because I understand what these quote unquote Western values lead to. I think there were some great things about Western values. There's some of these things that I want to incorporate. But the biggest failure and the biggest reason why everything has fallen is because we have veered away from a warrior culture. And this is what instead, and this is what I had to, and I'm thankful. I'm grateful that this individual called up the other day and he said that to me, because I had to sit there and I had to say, all right, there are some things about the West that I am trying to save, or not necessarily save, but procure and bring into my own society. But what am I trying to create overall? So I had to sit here and I had to clarify. And what I'm trying to sit here and create, honestly, is a warrior culture. I'm trying to revamp and create a warrior culture, a society based on the principles of being a warrior. And not just a warrior in the sense of like just being able to fight and that's all our culture is based on. No. It's more so of having the warrior initiation be part of masculinity and be something that's on the forefront of how things are. Now, there's other aspects to it. If you read my book, you'll understand that I believe earlier on in a child's life that they need to learn from nature. They need to learn how to navigate through nature. They need to learn self-sufficiency of how to, apparently the New Testament is very red pill. I 100% disagree. But anyway, that's going into people's belief systems, and it's very hard to change someone's mind on something that they believe. I look at, again, just like what we say with the red pill, don't look to words, look to actions. And I look to how traditional conservatism has now bred feminism, which has utterly destroyed our society. Traditional conservatism had no answer to feminism because they created weak men that pedestalized women and had no ability to protect boundaries. They had weak men that could not say no. They had weak men that allowed improper leadership to come to power and essentially cuck them into their submission. This is kind of where I'm going. Civil War culture of preparation. That's what I'm talking about. And that's what I've been talking about for some time. Correct. And one thing that I'm learning when it comes to me having this conversation with people, because I sit here and I say often, guys, you need to get prepared. Oh, no. Hey, guys, you need to go and you need to start training martial arts. Oh, yeah, no. Hey, we need to fucking get together and amass some resources in order to start training each other up so that we could survive what's coming our way. Oh, no. It's like, it's because you're weak. And it's because we live in a society today that has coddled most people from the harshness of being a warrior. I had to sit there the other day. I finished this stream and I was disappointed. I was like, man, I'm sitting here and I'm trying to create this dream. Like, honestly, that, and I hate to sound like, fuck that. Actually, I don't hate to sound selfish. I'm selfish. I am, absolutely. To me, I'm creating something. I want to create something where I'm like, yo, this is the fucking, not only is this like the best society based off of all the flaws that we've seen, but also this is something that I'd want to live in. I'd want to live in a society where women are back in their feminine role doing feminine stuff and men are fucking training day in and day out to be warriors on all fronts. With self-ownership at the fucking root of it. Because it's a society based on rationale, on logic. You don't need somebody sitting there telling you what to think. You instead can reason yourself into these things because the arguments have been presented. And the beauty of that is if someone comes up with a better argument or a better way via a better argument, you quickly adapt it. You quickly adopt it and you move on. Because it's the winning argument. Right? But the problem I'm seeing right now is that I sit here and say this stuff. I'd like to say it's a mixture between Sparta and Athens. You bring the philosophical aspect and the academy style of training mixed in with the Spartan way of creating warriors. And you could build the two. You can build the two together for sure. No, I listen, I agree. I think you're right. But if they could set up Chaz or Chop or whatever the fuck you want to call it, I don't see why we can't create a little academy for men to become fucking, no kidding, warriors and understand, like, and it's not just a warrior of like a fighting warrior. You know, most of the stuff that I do right now, it's mostly mental. That's why I get so fucking exhausted. It's like physical chess. Even when it comes to Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. It's physical chess. And it's not just me fighting someone else. It's me fighting me. As crazy as that sounds. So going back to it and understanding from the religion aspect, what religion has done is it's instead moved into this kind of meek civility type of thing to guilt men away from being warriors. Understanding violence, understanding when to use violence, understanding the morality of violence, and understanding that being good doesn't mean being nice. Teaching men how to defend the boundaries and the borders of their heart, of their mind, of their own property, of their society, of their culture, of their traditions. And amassing men together that understand that hierarchy and fine-tune each other into creating that type of environment. Because if we can all agree upon those foundations, then we can all agree to live amongst one another. But I also know that when it comes time for you to pick up your end of the fucking, or your side of the fucking boat, or your end of the fucking totem pole or whatever, you're going to be able to do it. Biggest thing a lot of people, and that's what I'm seeing, and that's what I'm hearing, believe it or not, is I'm hearing men, when I sit here and say, go and do these difficult things, they say, I'm scared to. Or I fear the discomfort. I fear the discomfort of going to a jiu-jitsu class. I fear the discomfort of going to a Muay Thai class. I fear the discomfort of acquiring resources. I fear the discomfort of meeting up with other like-minded men and discussing these things. I fear the discomfort of maybe being rejected, of looking silly. I fear the discomfort of doing hard work to make myself more lethal. And frankly, it's sad. It's sad. But I also have to remember that I've made a lot of different choices in life than most people. Joining the military at 18, right after invading Iraq. Spending 9 years, going to war, going through some of the hardest training in the world. Getting into CrossFit afterwards, becoming a high-level CrossFit competitor, owning businesses, doing a whole bunch of different shit. I forget that. I love to train. I love training. I love being with other men and training hard and fine-tuning my skills and fine-tuning their skills. I like being in a tribe. I like being with other fucking men, like real fucking men, real men. That'll be honest, that'll cut you deep if they need to in order to make you better, right? But a brotherhood, a fucking brotherhood where I'm like, I could fucking rely on these people. But also a group of men I know that are willing to put in work and effort and go through some hardships together. Maybe it is a pipe dream, you know? A lot of people are sitting there saying that, you know, this is a pipe dream. I'd rather dream and try to fucking go after that than sit here and tap out right now and say, all right, fuck it. Meteor of death, whatever the fuck. No, I'm not tapping out. I'm not tapping out on life. I've come from way worse, way fucking worse. I'm telling you guys, some of the shit that I've gone through has been way worse than what we're going through right now. Every day I wake up and I say, let's keep going. Let's keep going because it's going to get better. That's my perspective. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. But I also have to participate in that. Anyway, like I said, going back into this, traditional conservatism has bred the warrior culture out of us as men, and it led the way to create these feminists, and it led the way for these Marxists to come in. It led the way for the decay of our societies and civilizations. It led the way for other fucking international companies, international corporations, other foreign entities to come into our country, start stealing our hard-earned tax dollars, guilting America into doing all sorts of world police bullshit. Fuck that shit. I want to create a fucking society where it's us. It's us. Everybody else, if you want something, give me a fucking offer. We'll work together and that's going to be it. But I'm not fucking sitting here and supporting you. My people are not going to be your fucking slaves. My people are not here to serve you. Anyway, Andrew, pulling you onto the stream.
Hello.
How's it going?
Hey, man. I bought your book a week ago. And
Which book?
Purging Feminism.
Cool. We've chatted before.
I haven't read the first one, but
okay. Don't worry about it.
And I like it a lot. I read it once, and then I read it. Now I'm midway through reading it again. And when I saw you were live, I wanted to just come over and discuss a few topics that really resonated with me, and just maybe you could elaborate further, because I don't think people that watch you casually can fully appreciate what you're saying until they read your book, to be honest with you.
Keep going. I'll let you sell it, bro.
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to dick ride. I'm simply just like,
no, I got you.
I'm giving credit where credit is due. You know, is some of it a little bit radical? Maybe, possibly, but only you could have wrote that shit. And only someone that has gone through a fair amount in life can lay this down like you have. So I don't know. I really like it. So I just want to talk about a few things. And if you could give me your thoughts, I'd appreciate it.
Feel free.
Obviously, when you're consuming art of any sort, the stuff that resonates with you a lot is stuff that relates to your life a lot. So the part where you were angry and became a quote unquote hippie for a few months or however long that was.
Yeah.
And because of all the, you had, your business had fallen apart. Like you said, you were angry about everything and you just wanted to kind of wipe your hands and sing Kumbaya for a bit. I entered that type of phase recently, and I said, this is bullshit. Very quickly, I could see the flaws in that type of behavior. And I was wondering if you could elaborate more on your time in that, because I've never heard you discuss it. So
sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I was going through, and during that time frame, so I was smoking a lot of weed and eating a lot of weed too. And I had just come off of my SSRIs also. And the crazy thing was everything that I had buried emotionally from my upbringing, from my time in the military, from like all my relationships that I've had with women, relationships with friends too that didn't go so well. The failure of the business, my hatred, like at that point in time, I also had a bit of a hatred towards capitalism, as crazy as that sounds. And I was like, fuck, dude, this system fucking sucks. And I had to sit there and so I tapped out, right? I fucking tanked. I mean, at that point in time too. So I started growing weed. I said, fuck it, let's start growing weed. Maybe I'll be able to save my business. That started to fail. I was in debt. All my friends had turned their back on me at this point in time because my gym was failing and I wasn't doing too well mentally and emotionally. And I was like, dude, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like everything was fucked. And I was like, the best thing I could do right now is start to retreat from society. But the biggest issue too, though, was with the weed thing. And most people probably won't understand this context because it's a little bit too like woo-woo. But weed is a very, very feminine. It's a very feminine spirit. And the other thing about that is it's not just a feminine spirit. It's like a codependent feminine spirit. So it's a very toxic feminine spirit. It'll lure you in with like these nice highs, but then it's going to start chipping away at your masculinity. So my masculinity started to get stripped as well. And of course, at that point in time too, the way that chip at it was to sit there and focus on my father. My father, who is this, I don't know if you guys have ever read the book, The Unchained Man by Caleb Jones. I highly recommend you get this book. But he talks about the difference between Alpha 1.0 and Alpha 2.0. And we're progressing into the Alpha 2.0 type of society. Now, the Alpha 1.0, and this is what Christianity kind of sells to people too, is you go and you get married to this woman. You lock her down. You're the alpha of your house. You go and you work and you provide resources. You have children. You kind of rule your children or you rule your domicile however you need to. And my dad brought that. He didn't have, and like I said, he never was initiated into masculinity. And he was abused terribly by his mother. She was vicious. Like, used to whip him with fucking clothing, like unfold a clothing hanger, right? The wire ones. And she used to whip him with it, right? Like bad. And she had the rolling pin and all that other stuff. She was crazy. So he had some very, very deep wounds when it came to the feminine. So for me, when it came to it, whenever he saw anything that was remotely feminine out of me, especially as a child, like any type of weakness, like crying or anything like that, he would just beat me. Right. And the way that he ruled the household was very weird. So the way that this time frame kind of attacked me was to attack masculinity as that is the only way masculinity is. Does it make sense? And masculinity is what's responsible for capitalism and all these wars and sending you to war and watching your friends die and all this other stuff. And it's masculinity, which is really weird because if you really think about this, This is the exact spirit that is embraced and being pushed by this Marxist, communist, feminist agenda today. That everything that we see wrong in society is because of toxic masculinity. So I tapped hard into that. And I was like, fuck this shit. Fuck everything. Fuck masculinity, right? I'm just going to be a hippie. I'm going to be a peaceful guy, all this other stuff, accept all this other shit and blah, 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 blah. That was pretty much on the lines of what's going on today with this BLM, Antifa, feminist type of bullshit. But as soon as I stopped smoking weed and as soon as I took self-ownership of my life and kind of pushed back against those other narratives, that I started to realize, because I had to check in. And I had to sit here and I had to say, how do I feel about this stuff? How do I feel about relinquishing my masculinity and believing that everything is peace and saying fuck capitalism and all this other shit? I had to sit here and ask myself that. And I was like, at that point in time, I started to play with like socialist, communist ideas. And before anybody sits there and says, oh, that's probably why you got the Che tattoo. I got this Che tattoo like 2 years before that, rather. And I've explained why I got my Che tattoo. I got to clarify real quick. I don't believe in socialism. I don't believe in Marxism. I had come to the conclusion that capitalism is good when capitalism is practiced in a free market. But what we are facing today is what is considered crony capitalism. We pretty much have like a fascio, I don't even want to say fucking republic right now because it's not even a republic. It's corporations that are in charge of our policy. And we are at the behest of these policies being pushed by these big corporations. So essentially what it is it's these corporations pushing our government to create policy. And then we get the fucking shit end of the stick when it comes to this. Hence why we ended up going to war. So it has nothing to do necessarily with masculinity or the masculinity that I was taught was this toxic form of it. Does it make sense?
Yes.
So I checked out of society for a little while in order to like regain myself and regain the direction. And I actually said, you know what? No, like I don't want to be this kind of like, I was hanging around a bunch of hippies at this point in time. And I started to see all these people that were like, oh, I'm anti-capitalism too. And, we've created all these collectives and done all this other stuff. So I pulled these kids into my house where I was growing fucking weed out of. And I was like, okay, cool. These guys will work. They'll work and that's how they'll pay the rent and all this other stuff. Right. And I'll be able to have a good harvest with my weed and all this other shit and make money. And this will be good. And then I started to realize that these kids, all they do is sit around and they smoke weed and they come up with these brilliant ass ideas of like, oh shit, wouldn't this be nice? And they never act on any of this stuff. And then I also realized that a lot of them were just emotionally scarred individuals that were just overly emotional. And whenever they would have like a little tiff or whatever, they would kind of do like, it was super weird to watch this too. They would do what was known as like, what was it? I'm botching this. I heard somebody say it the other day, but they would like snuggle together. They would like snuggle and like worm together.
Yeah, you use that analogy of worms, and I just felt it was so really like poignant and accurate because I'm coming out of a similar phase right now. I just feel like the ideologies I was buying into were, I'm rejecting all this stuff. So I want to throw my hands up and say fuck it all, but then I want to say fuck it all until I meet other people that say fuck it all. And I realize I don't really have that much in common with these people.
Right.
So
really what's going on right now is you're just going through a phase, a transition. For us before we would bounce from and what you're doing is you're starting to hone into the center because this is what had to happen for me. I had to go from one extreme to bounce to the next and then see that I didn't like that and then start to move more back towards the center. And I did this through rationale. As crazy as this sounds. And the thing that got me back, honestly, was number one, meditation, and number two, studying philosophy. Because then it gave me the rational mind to start to test my emotional conditions against what I'm feeling and then create better systems. Does it make sense? So go ahead.
Yeah, it does. I have some more questions about that, like, if you don't mind.
Sure. But let me get to this real quick, because the problem is with most of these people, they've been so entitled. And even these hippie kids were super entitled because they really have never worked for anything. They just have a really bad victim complex. So they want to hate the winners. And I'm not going to lie, I fell into that trap for a little while there too. I hated the winners because I wasn't winning.
Absolutely.
So what happens when you're in this kind of like rage-filled state is you go into this mindset of like, oh, wouldn't this be nice? And that's kind of like a dream world of ideals. And the thing is, nature is always going to win. Reality is always going to win. So your ideal is never going to be what reality is. We've played with this. Postmodernism, if you understand the philosophy of postmodernism, and this is what's helped me get there, is, you know, you start studying like Kant, and you start studying people like, who the fuck else am I thinking of? Someone throw some other fucking postmodern philosophers out there, but I deduced and went through all their philosophies, right? Where it's like the mean is better than, or sorry, not the mean, but like, you know, we'd go through the trolley thing, and it talks about how, that's right. The end justifies the means, and that people are about duty. They should be serving duty and all this other stuff. And then that kind of ties into Marxism, where it's like, oh, well, the people that create most of the value should be the ones that are receiving most of the value, and not the bourgeoisie who just sit there and do this. And I was like, well, also coming from the mindset and understanding of a business owner before, I had to shoot that one in the foot, because I'm the one that created the system. I'm the one that invested all this effort and energy and all this other stuff. And you and I pretty much came into a contract. I said, hey, do you want this job? Yeah, Foucault, good one. Do you want this job? This is how much I'm offering you per hour for your labor. Okay. And then you said, yes. Okay, cool. But a lot of these people, they don't understand business, right? They dream of an ideal. They think that they should be receiving the profits as well. But most people don't understand how much time, energy, and resources went into the creation of that business that I have to pay back. So let's say 40% of my profits are actually going towards paying back my initial investment. And then the other 40% is going towards paying my employees and business operations. So now I'm actually only profiting and only making 20%. But then you don't realize, based off of that 20%, I actually have to fucking pay taxes off of that. And then I also have to pay $800 a year here in the state of California for LLC, right? So it's like, I'm really not making fucking much money. You're actually making more money than I'm making right now, but I'm hoping to grow this so that one day this investment will make it so that I could profit better, right? So I know this is kind of like this kind of went off topic, but the hippie type of mindset, they don't understand second, third, fourth, and fifth order effects of leadership. They instead believe that they believe that they could create a system that is just based off of like characteristics, a surface level type of thing, right? It's kind of like how Freud goes after psychology. It's all like, his is actually subconscious, but it's like the first level of the subconscious. So he doesn't dig deep to the core of what is really truly going on and why. So these hippie people, they don't really believe in working. They think that they should be rewarded for minimal effort. They don't understand their role as part of belonging to this group. And they hate you because you're more successful and you're in a leadership position. They feel oppressed just based off of that. And it's like, well, and if you obviously read my book, you understand hierarchy is everything and all this other stuff. And it's necessary and it's needed. They try to deny the rules of nature. They try to deny the rules of interaction. They try to deny the social contracts that tie into a trusting relationship within society. They try to break that all down. But the thing is, all they're really trying to do is just create more chaos.
And none of them have the skills to enter that leadership role.
Correct. Now, they could possibly be a leader in one area, but for the overarching, and this is what this is why I, in a way, kind of like Jordan Peterson, but I go a step further when it comes to this stuff. A lot of these people want to lead and they want to tackle these huge, tremendous issues in society. But the majority of them can't fucking clean their room. They can't cook their own food. They can't fucking budget, right? They can't even maintain their own life. But yet here you are trying to sit here and tell the world how it should be. And that's another huge thing that I learned through going through that phase was it's like, wow, we have a lot of these people, a lot of these young kids that have had no guidance, have had no discipline, haven't really put in any, don't really have any skin in the game either. And they're sitting here crying to the world that this is the way the world should be. Because really what they're trying to do is reduce competition. They're trying to reduce competition and they're trying to make it so that everything is bubble wrapped. I talked about that in the book too, the bubble wrap society.
Absolutely.
It's like, well, nature isn't bubble wrapped. All these hippies, they got this big, huge fucking dream thinking that Mother Nature is this beautiful, fucking nice creature. And it's like, yo, you haven't spent enough time in nature to realize what fucking nature really is. Like that bitch is trying to kill you every step of the way. It's, watch The Lion King, the fucking circle of life.
Yeah, I'm starting to see more and more that reality is a cold, cold place, man. And
yeah, but and it's just like the red pill with women. Once you learn the rules, once you realize you're in a game, and then once you learn the rules of the game, you can now create a strategy in order for you to succeed.
Absolutely.
But the problem is, and this is why people reject the red pill, is it's like, whoa. I don't want to know that. I would much rather live in the ideal. I want to live in this ideal world. I want to live in this dream world and sit here and pretend like everything can just magically happen. It's like, well, first and foremost, this isn't Harry Potter land. You know what I'm saying? Like this isn't, magic, even though I do believe in some form of magic as far as like it being more to do with energy and like alchemy, so to speak. It's not the type of magic that most people want it to be, the fairy tale type of magic, right? The type of magic I'm talking about is like through fucking discipline, through understanding these rules, through understanding intention, through some forms of affirmation and so forth. You can start to create the reality you desire through willing it and taking action.
And I think your book does a good job of breaking these things down.
Thank you.
Like for example, just hear me out when I say this. A few years ago, I read, Russell Brand, that comedian, was on this big trip about exposing all the banks and capitalism nonsense. But at the end of the day, he'd go to these rallies and then go back to his big giant mansion and just like, I don't know, it kind of felt a little bit insincere. Whereas, you writing this, I felt a fair amount of sincerity in what you're writing, especially because you're coming at this from someone who's still building himself. And I think that's why the book kind of resonated with me. Also, I'm in a different place, though. I'm ready to accept these red pill truths at this point in my life.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But one thing that I'd like to ask you, and it's something that I'm struggling with, you really don't seem to give a shit what people think of you. Like seriously, a couple of weeks ago, you got on this stream and you were saying some truth, but you were saying some outlandish shit. Like, you know what I mean?
Like what?
You were dropping things that
dropping the hard R N-bomb, baby.
And you know what? I bet you, again, you're not super huge. Imagine you had millions of people watching you, right? Like, it would have been pandemonium. You have a niche audience right now. So, the people that are listening to you want to hear your message and are like, but, well,
I'm a free speech advocate. If you get offended by my words, that's on you. I should be able to say whatever I want to say and have the trust and faith in my community that I can say things that are outlandish and inflammatory. And you're gonna be like, okay, I get that. What's the reason behind why he's saying this?
Yeah, it was shocking at first because I've
Absolutely.
never been on a YouTube stream and heard someone talk like that straight up. But
well, I mean, it kind of it goes into the book as well. I mean, I sent out a free copy, or sorry, I sent out a free chapter of this book. I think it was it was the femininity one. The feminine. I got it right here. The failure to foster the positive feminine, and I go hard. Like I go hard on women and say things in that chapter specifically that need to be said, but no one really wants to say it the way that it needs to be said. And I said it. And that's kind of why I was really, I was so proud of this book too, was it's all the words that need to be said. And it's the words that men need to hear. And it's the words that men also need to be saying without that fear of being castigated as a racist or a sexist or a homophobe or any of this stuff, or a transphobe, right? It's like you need to bulletproof your psyche to understand that, sure, you're gonna be called those things just for understanding the truth of reality. And that's what the red pill is. And it's like, I don't know if you know this, but obviously I have the WarTribe men's group, and I have a bunch of, I think we're even as far as like the races are concerned in there. Like I have black dudes, I have Hispanic dudes. I don't know if I have any Asians though. Maybe. But either way, this is how we talk to one another, right? We throw out the N-bombs. We throw, you know what I'm saying? We fucking call each other fucking pussies and bitches and all this other shit. It's like when men are together and men are operating on this type of especially this big of a movement that I'm really trying to push, it's like you really got to desensitize yourself and then start to focus on the bigger picture of things. Like when I was in the military, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this show. It's called Generation Kill. I highly recommend people watch Generation Kill. But that's what I was a part of. We were all brothers. People, like, you could say racist ass shit, but it's kind of all in jest in a way. And it's like, people say these types of things in order to try to get underneath someone's skin to test whether or not they're going to become emotionally unstable. And if I can make you emotionally unstable, it shows you're kind of weak. And then people start to gain some level of distrust as far as you being on the team. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, what's the bigger picture? Do I get offended by these little stupid things and try to fucking promote my ideal on how everybody else should be around me? Or do I buy into the culture?
You know what? You're right. It's not like, at the end of the day, as long as you understand where the other person's coming from,
Right. But that also takes self-awareness.
Sure.
And the problem is most people's form of self-awareness today is entitlement. So it's like, I'm entitled to be offended, or I'm offended to be entitled. And that's what's going on with a lot of these people.
When you wrote this book, obviously you promoted it relatively hard. Like I'm sure you had plans. Like, what were your expectations of what would happen? Because and respectfully, like, this isn't easy reading. It's not just get girls and this, that, and the other. Like, I can't imagine the average person that consumes this red pill type of stuff to really sit down and read it. Like, it's truth bombs upon truth bombs, as opposed to just like pandering to what a lot of red pill audiences would want. I guess, what was your expectations?
I had all these thoughts rushing through my head. And I had them all lined up, and I just wrote out a simple page and a half outline. And I put a few little details underneath each of them. And I just sat down and I started writing, and I just fucking data dumped it all out. What was the question? What was my objective?
Your expectations? Like, did you really think that?
What were my expectations?
This would put you on the map, kind of thing. Like on a.
You know what? I'm not gonna lie. So at that point in time too, I was talking and I was associated with Rule Zero guys.
Yeah.
And I thought that this would have paired up nicely to the Rational Male.
You're absolutely right, man. You are.
And it would have paired up nicely to the direction that it needs to go as far as evolving the red pill. And like I talked about this on the last podcast. I said, if these men were really truly about bettering men, and like what Rollo always says, I'm here to help men turn themselves into their mental point of origin. I don't think there's a better book out there right now than my 2 books. But I think this book specifically, to get people onto the fast track of understanding what the red pill really is, as far as truth in all areas.
The only
Did I think it was going to put me on the map? There's a reason why I kind of created saying it now that the book's been out for fucking 6 months and hasn't taken off. Whatever. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But, I created the title in order to be somewhat polarizing.
Sure.
In order to get people to say, oh shit, this dude's not fucking around. Let's take a look.
I mean, you could have gone for a more red meat type of topic, that would have appealed to more people. But I think it's very admirable that you chose to. I mean, the cover is red meat in the sense, you got women in, on chains or whatever. But the content is very dense. And yeah, man, I think that anyone that hears this after the fact or is listening, and if you haven't checked it out, you'll probably appreciate his streams if you really buy into what Corey's saying a lot more, because or not even buy into it, fully appreciate it, I guess, a bit more, because he's said a lot of stuff on various streams that referencing the book, but you go into detail in the book, and I think that detail is necessary if you're going to truly internalize the concepts, which is kind of the journey I'm on right now. And that's why I think I bought your book a week ago, because it was eventually like I needed some truth bombs on me, true truth bombs. And I'm like, where have I felt those truth bombs? And I go, this book is kind of calling to me. So that's why I checked it out.
Thank you. I definitely appreciate that. And thank you for, in a way, pitching the book as well. Yeah, I appreciate everything you have to say. I mean, I can't disagree with anything you have to say either, because like I went through this whole thing. I tell people to buy the book. It's just one of those things right now where it's like, it has to, and this is one thing I notice with men, it kind of has to become popular before they really start to invest into it. Does it make sense? It's like once they see people buying it and seeing that it's kind of like, okay, then they'll support. But for right now, it's kind of like, right. So I don't know. That's just one thing I'm noticing. Like the more popular something is, the more people are willing to actually be like, oh shit, I want to get on board with that. So we're in the infancy stages right now. But
sure.
That's it.
Cool. Can I have one quick question, or no? Like you got other people?
Ask one more question, then we got to move.
Sure. You mentioned a lot about like kind of killing off the inner boy, like that fear of death.
Yeah.
Is there any, I know it's probably a longer conversation. Is there any quick kind of like offering you can like kind of say to point someone in that direction as to how, I guess it's an individual case, but
it's an individual case. I would highly recommend you start doing some inner child meditations. Begin to meditate. Inner child meditations. I talk about Lisa Romano. You can find her on YouTube, but I use an app specifically called Insight Timer app. You can start doing things like that. I went and did a whole bunch of different types of shamanic rituals, ayahuasca, iboga, peyote, and even if you can't do any of those, go and do a sweat lodge. That is very much a, you go into the womb, right? You're going into this tent, which is like the womb. And then you go through like a death of being in extreme fucking heat and discomfort. And like you start like clawing the dirt and the mud beneath you because it's so uncomfortable. And then you fucking crawl out. And it's supposed to symbolize a ritual of, I believe, killing the boy. That's what I think. And then last and final one that I would recommend most people get into is get into a fucking martial art. More specifically, jujitsu. That's a good one too. Philip Franklin says, go do a 6-month security contract in a third world country. That's a good one too. But I'll tell you why jujitsu, and it's because you are going through and symbolizing death and going through actual sort of death, being choked and all this other shit. So there's that. MP, I saw you on here. Please come back on if you want to join back up. I was just about to get to you.
Okay.
Anybody else? What's up?
Thank you, Corey.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. Bringing MP on. My man, what's up?
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well.
Okay, great. Yeah, I got my kids in the background, so if you hear something,
Don't worry about it.
that's them. Hey,
What you got?
thank you for your service. Yeah, thank you for your
Yeah,
service.
no doubt.
First off,
Believe it or not,
and
I had to go through some hatred of being in the military. But now I look back at everything in my life and I see the reason why. I'm glad that I was able to go through what I went through.
yeah, I mean, looking back, I think a lot of people looking at 9/11 and Iraq and all the lies and stuff, people are like, well, yeah, we probably shouldn't have gone there, but you guys didn't know that at the time. You did what you thought was right and what everyone thought was right at the time.
Yeah, I legitimately, it's crazy because on the day of September 11th, I remember watching Tower 7 fall and I'm like, whoa, that was a controlled demolition. It threw a lot of questions into my mind. But I sat there and I said, as weird as it sounds, it was kind of like, that was like the first stage of kind of uncovering the truth. But then I conditioned myself back in, kind of like belonging to like a codependent relationship. I was like, oh, well, maybe we did this in order to go to war with these countries that were really actually going to try to kill us. So justified in my mind, I'm like, all right, go do this. On top of the fact, too, of like, I was woke enough at this point in time. I hate to use the term woke, but I realized, whoa, I'm going to spend $80,000. So I was possibly going to become a cop, as shitty as that sounds. I was going to either become a chef or a cop. And I was looking at schools and I was looking at how much all these schools cost. And I talked to chefs and I talked to cops. And I said, all right, so I finished my 4-year degree or I finished my 2 years. I'm $50,000 to $80,000 in debt. What jobs do I have? And like, what guarantees do I have? And how much money will I be making? The cop was like, well, you're going to have to go through the academy after you get your criminal justice degree and go through these different types of things and blah, 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 blah. So you're not guaranteed shit.
Right.
And then the chef was like, well, it depends on how you finish as far as what's it called. Cruise ships are probably one of the best things you could do. You're going to be kind of locked into that and you're going to be working pretty much fucking all day. And it's not going to be fun. And I was like, oh shit. So you want me to go into debt? You want me to go into debt because my parents weren't going to fucking pay any of my school at all, right? So you want me to go into debt with no guarantee and I'm going to have to work my ass off afterwards. I was like, fuck it. Let's join the military. Let's go get paid. Let's go travel the world. Let's shoot fucking guns, bang hot bitches, and possibly go fucking kill Haji. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, all right, like this is a far better. I'd rather roll the dice and do this than to fucking be stupid enough to get into fucking debt.
Yeah, and that's the way they want it, because make no mistake, this goes back to Babylon, and this is definitely a Babylonian debt slavery system. And if the more people they get in debt with their fake funny money, the more they control people.
Yep.
So all these millennials that went to college for all these useless degrees, they're slaves. They're slaves to corporations. And the thing that people don't understand is we were not taught good economics. We're taught shitty Keynesianism, whatever. But at the end of the day, the national debt can never be paid back. Because if I print up $1 and then I give you $1, I give you that $1 and I say I want my 10% interest, so give me $1.10 back.
Right.
There's physically not enough money to pay off.
To pay it back.
Exactly. So it's impossible to pay off. So everybody is a slave and they foreclose periodically on the slaves. And that's what the Great Depression was. Yeah.
And I think I mentioned this maybe last podcast or the podcast before. America was doing well up until 1913. Like we were actually living by the Constitution. We were fucking kicking ass. And then 1913, we decided to fucking bring the Federal Reserve in. And then that just set off the last 107 years now.
Yeah.
Has been legitimate fucking slavery for every American citizen.
Yeah, that's what kicked off World War I.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, because we got involved right after that once they got their funny money to get us into debt.
Yep.
And
that's all those. That's all since 1913. There has not been a legitimate, morally fucking guided war. It has all been for the creation of building up these people. That was crony capitalism right there. Every war has been meant to grow the wealth of this elite class of people.
That's
and
right.
Subjugate our middle class, and then use the poor, use the lower class to also beat up the middle class as well.
Oh yeah, and flood our countries with cheap labor and destroy our cultures as well.
Correct. Yep.
And they benefit from all of it.
If people don't understand, sorry to cut you off, but if you don't and have not researched the Bolshevik Revolution,
I was about to say
go
that.
and research the Bolshevik Revolution, because that's exactly the direction. That's the exact same model they're trying to use right now to destroy the U.S. and usher in this kind of global.
I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take it one step further.
Go ahead.
And are you familiar with Anthony Sutton of the Hoover Institute?
I believe I've heard the name. I know the Hoover Institute, so I've probably
you gotta look into his books, because the United States funded communism. It was the bankers out of Wall Street, that Jewish bankers, that funded the entire communist Bolshevik Jewish revolution that killed 50 million of those white Russians.
They say that Stalin is actually a Jew.
Oh, he is. He spoke Hebrew or Yiddish. His middle name means son of Jew. Yep. He had a Jewish wife. Putin today is Jewish. It says so in his biography.
No way.
Donald Trump is a Kabbalist. It says so in his book.
I believe that too.
There's pictures of that on Twitter of the book page, because he has a Kabbalist whatever, and these Christians are duped. Totally duped.
Agreed. Yeah, people don't know and I'm glad you called in. People don't know the enemy that we're really dealing with. You seem to be very well versed in understanding how deep this goes. I mean, the Rothschilds, if people don't realize, that's a Jewish family that ended up taking over. They set up their federal central banks in the key locations, 5 key locations with the 5 sons.
Yep. It's funny. The founding of the country, Alexander Hamilton was the federalist that wanted a strong central bank. He was Jewish. He grew up in the Jewish. Yeah, he was Jewish, and he knew the Rothschilds back then. He was an agent of the Rothschilds. He eventually got into a duel with somebody and got killed. I forget his name.
Now, the name that you referred to me, Anthony
Sutton. Sutton. Sutton.
Okay. And then Hoover Institute.
And he's from the Hoover Institute, and he documented all that. He looked into because when they taught it in school, they did mention that the Bolsheviks were actually bust through Germany,
right? And
they had a bunch of gold. They had like $20 million worth of gold, and the idea was that the West and Germany agreed to let them go through. They were actually arrested. Was because Germany was at war with Russia, and they were like, well, fine, if you want to knock out the Tsar, be my guest. They didn't know what would happen later with the whole thing. But yeah, they were also arrested in Canada, and it was documented in the newspapers that these bankers were, they had sent a bunch of gold and money and all these communists, and they were arrested in Canada, and then they were released on the United States orders. And look, the banks are definitely at the top, because people don't understand this. They have unlimited money. Right. I'll give you an example. The UFC, which me and you are big fans of. I've taken a lot of martial arts in my day. I was one of the first. I've trained with the Gracies and stuff like that. Actually, the Gracies are kind of pieces of shit, as an aside, because if you look into their history, they were actually beat by catch wrestlers, and they were so ashamed of it that Helio, the grandfather Gracie, went with like 3 other brothers, and they broke this guy. They took baseball bats and they broke this guy's arms and legs that beat him, this catch wrestler, and they handicapped him for life, and they ruined his career. And this was in all of the newspapers. Yeah, the Gracies are pieces of shit, by the way. Yeah, because they lost to this catch wrestler. And by the way, catch wrestling beat all the judo guys back in the day. That's why Josh Barnett, he's kind of the lineage now of
Yeah.
catch wrestling, but but yeah, all these catch wrestlers back in the day, they were beating everybody. And that was the Farmer Burns and Frank Gotch. They beat all of the judo guys from Japan. And then the Brazilian catch wrestlers beat all the Gracie guys. And they cover it up to this day.
Wrestling's
They
gnarly.
don't, but you can look it up. It's all online. Go ahead.
You were saying something before. So martial arts, where were we?
Well, the money. So the UFC was just bought for $4 billion, right?
Yeah.
This took 20 years to build by Dana White and Frank Fertitta.
Yep.
They went into debt. They had all kind of risk.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I'm fine. You know, they can make their money. That's not my contention. My contention is who bought it. It was a Jew out of Hollywood who runs all of the celebrities. He's part of the cabal. And where did he get the money? J.P. Morgan printed up $4 billion and gave it to him as a loan to buy the UFC. And now they own the UFC. So they don't work for anything. They don't build anything. They just print the fucking money and they buy everything.
Right.
That's why our country is so fucked up.
Right.
This is the reason.
It's somebody sitting at the top with fairy dust that says, I'm in control, prints the stuff up and then says, you owe me.
That's right.
You owe me. And it's like, you can't have that. Like it goes naturally against the laws of the universe, right? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Yeah.
You can create something out of nothing. You can't. And I think that's why we are going to see, honestly, we're going to see a really bad fallout because.
Yeah, they know that.
Yeah, but at the same time, too, though, this is what I believe. I don't think that. I don't think it's going to go as planned. I don't think it's going to go as planned. I think that they think they have everything planned because what we're seeing is a controlled descent, right? It's a controlled demolition, they think. But I think that they don't take into consideration the human spirit. As crazy as that sounds. I don't think
that's true.
Consideration truth.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's kind of one of those things like going into a fight where it's saying, oh, we got everything. We got everything. We even know all the information. We know all your weak points. We know everything. But you can go, and it's just like war, right? I forgot who says this, but it's like, what is it? It's just like going into a fight. You could, you go into a fight with a plan, and then all fucking shit breaks loose, right? Like, I'm trying to figure out the exact phrase that they use, but it's like, go into a fight with a plan and then throw it out the window. Because honestly, you can't plan for every contingency when it comes to war, when it comes to a battle.
I agree with that. I think the internet pretty much has them beat. I mean, they could try to censor everybody, but I'm just a guy that looked up stuff and was curious. And I was able to find all this. You know, it's not like 20 years ago where everything's hidden. I don't have anything special or anything. I'm just like, hey, what's this? What's that? Why is this? What book is this? I'm like listening to what people recommend and I'm checking it out. And I'm able to figure out what's going on and why it's going on. So in the long run, they're really fighting a losing battle because now anybody could look this stuff up. Anyone could look up Anthony Sutton. Anyone could look these guys up. Yeah.
They're quickly, and this is the big problem too, Google. Like I remember 5 years ago when I was researching all this like enlightenment type stuff, and I could Google this stuff and it would come up. And I was like, oh yeah. And now when I went back and I tried to like re-Google some of the shit that I was looking up before, and you can't find that stuff anymore. Like Google is literally.
Yeah, they are.
They're working right now to control.
But it won't work, you know, because people could just make new stuff. They could build their own websites and stuff like that, you know. So they could do it to an extent, but what I'm saying is they're fighting a losing battle.
I think so too.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
You can't fight truth.
Well, they have for a long. It's very interesting. They have for a long time, but now with the internet,
Right.
you know, you're right. They can't. So, what are some questions that you have that maybe I could answer or not? Because I know maybe some stuff you don't know.
Well, I don't know exactly what topic to discuss on that one. To ask you questions personally, and I don't know you personally.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. How'd you come to find me?
YouTube. It was just a recommendation, and because feminism does have blowback, and that's why they created MGTOW. And so MGTOW is just the flip coin of feminism. It's to castrate the men, turn them into incels.
Yep.
Yeah, and make sure they don't start any families.
Correct.
You know, and that's not the solution ultimately, because that's a death cult, is what it is. MGTOW is a death cult. Bottom line, and all these people that are pushing it,
well,
they know exactly what they're doing with their little fucking club. They know exactly what they're doing.
I think with MGTOW, I think that MGTOW right now is because I don't think that we should be MGTOW forever. I think it needs to be something that needs to be MGTOW until we've created the society like what I'm talking about, until we have men who are trained to be able to establish and uphold boundaries and be able to uphold boundaries within their relationships with women. So that's what the red pill is, right? That's what I believe. But MGTOW is a faction underneath it. Now, right. Like I said, the last one, sure, you have different contingencies or different aspects of the MGTOW where it's guys that have sworn completely off women that are only going to fuck dolls and all this other shit. But like I said in the last one, in my last podcast, I think all of us really want to have women and have children. But the thing is, right now, with the way that society is set up, that's not possible. It's just too much of a risk, like what we're discussing here right now. So what's the answer and what's the solution? Well, it's to separate from this society and separate from the rules and laws of this society and create our own. So in a way, that kind of is a MGTOW. It's us going our own way. Does it make sense?
Yeah. I know what you're trying to say, and I agree with that approach.
But that's what it is too, because I think that, believe it or not, and I don't know if you are big on dating or anything like that, but one thing that I know is that when you start to step away and put your own rules down and kind of like go your own direction as a self-guided man, you actually end up attracting more women. So that's kind of the reverse side of it too.
Yeah, that's very true.
Fuck that. We're creating our own society over here. We're creating fucking high value men. Naturally, there's going to be a response of certain types of women that are going to be like, oh, I want part of this. It's be like, oh, okay, you want part of this? Well, here's the rules. Here's the rules of how the society is going to be. If you want to fit in the society, you have to follow these rules. Now, the cool part is then you start bringing in women, but then you have men that are trained to uphold those rules, uphold those boundaries. So now you have an ideal society where men are pretty much controlling the social contract, where they're ensuring that these things are lived up to. And then you also have the opposite side too, where it's like, okay, you're not living up to these rules, then you actually get exiled from the society. So you're hitting both sides of the, what's it called? The motivation, right? Maintaining and having high value men in the society where they're safe and security.
Yeah.
Men.
Yeah.
And then there's also the fear of exile.
Yeah. And I agree. And there are cultures that achieve this. I think the Jewish cultures, or the Jewish culture and the Amish, really do a great job with their women. And
the Mormons used to also.
The Mormons as well.
Pretty much all of Utah.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to see a lot of women in the Mormon religion become westernized sleuths. And I'm actually starting to see this happen too a lot with Islam as well. Where I'm seeing these Islamic women that are on fucking Snapchat or on TikTok or doing whatever, and they're espousing fucking Western fucking feminist values in their hijab.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
That bitch about to meet the fucking business side of a fucking stone.
They do that down there. I mean, you know all about that. They'll kill them. They'll honor kill them.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
They're hardcore over there. Like in Iraq and stuff like that, they'll just straight up stone them to death.
Afghanistan for sure. Afghanistan was a fucking wild west. Iraq was pretty modern, believe it or not. Iraq was.
I do believe that.
Yeah. Afghanistan, you're in a fucking mud hut in the middle of fucking nowhere with, like, you can't call the cops. You can't do any of this shit. Dude's got fucking 4 wives holed up there with fucking 8 cows and sheep. It's crazy, dude.
I heard there was a lot of pedophilia over there in Afghanistan. Is that true?
Really, that's the thing that really fucking pissed me off. Honestly,
that's what I heard.
They weren't raping the girls; they were raping the boys.
Yeah. And every warrior had like a little boy.
Yep.
That he would bring up and rape, and then once he was a certain age, he'd kick him out.
Yep.
Really fucking weird. But you know what's? Oh, go ahead.
It's dominance. That's their currency over there. It's warrior culture and dominance. Whoever is the most dominant is the leader.
You know, it's weird because samurai used to do that shit too. If you look into the samurai, they were pederasts.
No shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so are the Athenians. The Spartans were not. Correct. But they were homos at times.
Spartans, yeah.
Spartans were not pederasts though, in general. Yeah.
Sparta's problem was that they expanded too far and they couldn't maintain culture after spreading that far, or fund their operations too.
Sparta's problem was Babylon, because once Babylon fell, the bankers came to Athens and took over Athens. So the same people that are the richest people, in the United States today, if you look into it, in Athens, they were the richest people back then because they controlled the money supply again. And so they ruled over Athens. And in Plato's work, he talked about this. He talked about a republic where there was supposedly democracy, but the bankers ruled everything. And even in his republic, he talked about veganism. By the way, veganism is the New World Order diet. Do not support veganism at all. Yeah. That shit is bullshit. Right now. He talked. Plato talked about this. He said, "Feed the slaves the grains because it makes them fat and slow and stupid, and feed our men the meat, because it makes them strong and smart. Because you need the fat for brain development and stuff like that."
And all those.
But they talk about that, and he also talks about bankers ruling a democracy behind the scenes. And so what you have when you have the Peloponnesian War, it's not talked about, but if you read certain books, you find this out. The Peloponnesian War was the money interests of Athens versus Lycurgus, who had the iron money standard and essentially a warrior society. And it was the money interests versus the non-money interests. And Sparta won the Peloponnesian War. But they did not win against the money power, which eventually destroyed Sparta, because they flooded them with luxuries, first of all, and then with the Thebans, Alexander the Great, eventually, who was part of the moneyed class, by the way. He was tutored by Aristotle. And it was the Thebans who destroyed eventually Sparta, because they had, funnily enough, homosexuals that they would pair them off, and they would never leave the battlefield, leaving their homosexual brother behind. And it was very powerful, and they eventually beat the Spartans.
Wow.
Yeah. And
I want to look this up real quick. You said Lycurgus? Who's that?
Lycurgus. I might be mispronouncing his name, but he's the father and founder of Sparta. Lycurgus. It's Lycergus, I believe. Lycurgus. He was the brain and founding father of Sparta. And he, for instance, when people brought democracy to Sparta, someone stopped him in the street and they were talking or whatever about democracy, and Lycurgus slapped the man in the face and said, "If you want democracy, institute it in your own house if you dare."
That's legit.
Because it's the rule by the weak and the infirm and the stupid. That's what it is. It's not ruled by aristocracy. It's ruled by the common man and the mass man, which is what we have today. The sheeple that go to sports ball, which is a control mechanism, make no mistake about it, who cheer on the former slaves of the Republic and give them their daughters as a sacrifice to the now conquering heroes, the former slaves, throwing around a ball on a field, giving them hundreds of millions and billions of dollars every year. This is the mass man.
Yep.
The fool, the fucking idiot who gets drunk at a tavern and thinks he's so tough, but he doesn't read, he doesn't train, he has a belly, he can't see his fucking dick.
Yeah. And
so the elite
won.
Yeah, the elite. Go ahead.
Well, then he says we won, like he's a part of the team.
Yeah. Well, this is the psychology of it. He thinks he's part of their tribe. He's not. They fucking hate him. They fucking hate. They hate him.
They like his money.
Yeah, they just like his money, but they despise him.
Lycurgus was the father of Sparta, and he believed, or he had the iron, right? Like what you're talking about. That's what everything was based off of. I'm going to look into this
for a reason.
So let me tell you, I don't know if you know this about Hitler. So Hitler brought Germany back into power within 6 years as a global fucking power. 6 years without taking any fucking money or anything like that, based off of national pride and everybody investing into Germany.
Yeah, I know about that guy, and I for a long time there they had me fooled. I'm gonna be honest. Anthony Sutton wrote another book. It was also the funding of Nazism or National Socialism.
Yeah,
and it's the same people that funded communism.
Yeah,
unfortunately, and if you know anything about secret societies and brotherhoods and how they communicate and such, it's very easy to find out he was one of them. Very easy if you know what to look for.
That Hitler was one of them?
Oh yeah. It's very easy once you know the signs and symbols. I don't know what more to say. I mean, I can only say so much, really. But Anthony Sutton wrote about it. There's not many books on it, but the man had a Jewish lawyer. His personal lawyer was Jewish. His training, his speech coach was Jewish. David Irving. Look into David Irving. He's an English historian. He writes about it, has written about it. Hitler loved the Jews. He had an agreement with them. They were going to retake Palestine. He was training them in Germany to retake Palestine for Israel. He was a Zionist. There are coins minted with the swastika on one side and the six-pointed star, the seal of Solomon, really. Well, it's Moloch, but the seal of Solomon on the other. And these are coins that you could look up. I think it was called the transfer agreement. It should be even on Wikipedia. And Hitler was funded by these people. And David Irving, David Irving, another historian out of England, documents all this. He was one of the best historians of his time. They threw him in jail for talking about this.
That's crazy.
You're not allowed to, at least in England. Supposedly we have. Freedom of speech, but people like to point to this, and this is part of the false dichotomy that's going on. And if you look into the history of Christianity, which is what you started this stream with, you're absolutely correct. Christianity was Constantine was founded by Constantine, who was a Roman pagan emperor who used Christianity to conquer Europe. That's all it was, and it's a foreign ideology used to yoke the European people under one pope. That was the whole purpose. And that's what the Viking Wars were about. The Vikings went to war with Christianity for hundreds of years. Hundreds of years. They invaded and occupied, well, they didn't occupy, but they sacked Paris, France. The Vikings did. There's a lot of history that they cover up, these stupid Christians, because at the end of the day, what Christianity is, not for the low guy. The low guy doesn't know what the hell's going on.
Right,
at the top, it's all the same, dude. Like at the top, they're all part of the same club.
Right. And it's all a pyramid.
So, yeah, and so all the holdouts are gone now. What we're looking at with this worldwide coronavirus shutdown is they're demonstrating that they're in control of all of the governments in the world. They've demonstrated it. It's here. The New World Order is here. All the sellouts have already joined the club. The people that aren't going to sell out and join the club are eventually going to get killed.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. I mean, that's what it is. It's here. The founding of the United States was their project. Look into who founded. The number one president of the United States belonged to their secret club. That's it. The U.S. Constitution, they wrote about it in many books, and there are occult books. The U.S. Constitution was written in secret to be a giant federal government. And the 10 amendments were later added. Amendments. They were amended in order to get the damn giant federal government passed. The United States, from its inception, is a lie. They lied to everybody.
Crazy.
It's easy to look up. You could look up, what club they belong to. There's pictures all over the place.
There's a question. Do you have your own channel?
No.
I'm guessing you were saying you should probably start your own channel.
That just blocked me, dude. It's like it kind of gets to the point. Well, what do you do when you look into who founded Mormonism and where they got it from? It's all the same club. When you look into who did this and who did that, it's all part of the same club. They all use the same signs and symbols. When you look into all of it, there it is. It's the cold hard truth.
Yeah, I mean that could also go into what Plato talks about with like the world of forms as well. I think that all has to do with like alchemy, and that's why they're so big into the occult. Because that's how you bring material from the spiritual. You bring the spiritual into the material is through those things. So that's why the occult is huge with a lot of those guys. Sweet. I fucking love it, dude. Fucking join on again. I love listening to shit like this all the time. I mean, I don't necessarily believe I have to do my own research as well.
Yeah.
But I like listening to different perspectives and chewing on things and seeing it'll go. So anyway, with that said,
stuff. Godspeed.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna kick you off, and I'm gonna say my piece and then get out of here. So thanks.
All right. Godspeed. Bye.
Excellent. Well, I'll take those calls. Fuck it. Who cares? I wasn't aware Q was in the J conspiracy. That's hilarious. Whenever you tune in, the thing that I post up for the topic is just kind of like one topic. And as you can see, we just can go on fucking tirades all over the place. Who cares? It's hilarious. It's fun. Might as well. But this dude at this point in time, I need to take a leak. I need to eat some food and bang some bitches. So with that said, if you guys don't mind, as per always, please like, share, and subscribe. Big emphasis on the share. Be a fucking man. Hit that share button. Send it to some friends. Be like, listen to this crazy shit. XYZ. Also, as I've stated before, I do appreciate donations. Got one super chat today. Got to say what's up to Gregory Dixon. Always throwing that out there. He's the man. But if you guys wouldn't mind, please do send a donation to my PayPal, www.paypal.me/Corey Capella. That'd be very much appreciated to keep this shit going. I won't be live tomorrow. That is the reason why I came on live. I got to watch the fights tomorrow to get prepared for all that other good stuff. So anyway, with that said, I'll probably see you back on Monday or Tuesday. If you don't have your notifications turned on, please do turn your notifications on to be notified when I go live. Awesome. I'll see you guys later. And thanks for calling in, people. Appreciate it. See you later.